There we go. And once again, we are live on May 3rd, 2022. Welcome to another edition of Triple T, Talk Time with TJ. If this is your first time or watching a recording for the first time, my name is TJ Zeville. I'm a professional problem solver, is what I like to call it. Jack of all trades, master of none. But if you know the rest of the quote, it's better than a master of one. At least I like to agree with it because it helps me with my therapy. All right. Well, been an interesting week. Hope you guys had a great week. Excuse me while I readjust all the stuff I just broke. The way I like to start out, if you guys would, if you get a chance, if it's not too inconvenienced, type in where you're tuning in from. It's kind of a fun little thing I'm going to get started here just so people can see that we got peeps from all over. And also, if this is your first time watching this, join us live. You don't even have to know how to spell NLP or know anything about the subjects we're talking about, because one of the things I like to talk about is who's the expert. Could be anybody. Sometimes the best answers come from people who just blurt stuff out. We got Costa Rica, San Francisco. Elijah's in his bedroom. Glad you could be specific. Francine's in Melbourne, Australia. And I am just outside of Dallas, Fort Worth. Lenore's in Pennsylvania. I almost said Transylvania. That would have been a whole different outlook on life. So anybody got any ahas, epiphanies, things they'd like to share from this last week or from last Triple T before I jump into what my mind has come up with over the last 7 days? I've been unsupervised for 7 days, so stuff that has been popping up in my life. But again, real quick, anybody got anything they want to share? Or Bueller? 20 years from now, somebody will stumble on this and go, who the heck is Bueller? Right?
He's so sad.
Yeah, well, some people here leave it to Beaver and they're like, what's Beaver got to do with it? Well, looks like we're going to dive right in. If you saw my Facebook post, some of the stuff we got this week is the problem with depends, therapy soup, and hope in your GPS, among other things. But before we get to that, I wanted to share a couple of quick things. One was something I said to one of my clients this week that I had to type down, because sometimes even I say things where I'm like, ooh, that kind of sounded good. I should probably type that down so I can maybe repeat it again sometime. And that is that, especially like when you're thinking in identity change, change is simply a conscious series of choices that are different from the ones that were made before on autopilot until they become the new norm. I'll say it again, because even after I said it, that's why I had to write it down. I was like, did I just say what I just heard? Yes. especially when it comes to stuff like identity change. Change is simply a conscious series of choices that are different from the ones that were made before on autopilot until they become the new norm. And you can't beat yourself up for the stuff you didn't know earlier. That falls under the whole coulda, shoulda, woulda. Well, yeah, if you would have known better, if you could have realized that, if you knew then what you know now, the big story and all these sayings that you can pop into there, that falls right into it. But once you know the difference, once you realize that you have a choice, then it's on you. The fact that I don't speak fluent Spanish, well, that's on me. There's plenty of options to learn. I mean, I could potentially speak 9 languages fluently if I wanted to. But I'm choosing to do other things. All of these things back here, those were choices. I could have learned how to get to level 73,000 on somebody's Xbox. I can barely play Pac-Man. That's a choice. That's on me. But I know which one paid more bills. Just saying. Another quote. This one is open for discussion. This will be fun. If you have to talk to more than 3 people about your problem, you don't really want change, you want attention. And that's why when I do my free consult, one of the questions I like to ask is, what have you tried before that hasn't worked? And if they tell me that, well, I saw this person and this person and this person and this person and this person, and then I did therapy with this person, then I worked with this psychiatrist, and then I did red flag. I'm like, okay, do you really want to get fixed? Oh yeah. I'm like, I'm not so sure. Could be secondary gain. And for those of you that don't understand the concept of secondary gain, especially when it comes to change work, there are certain people that don't want to be fixed, but they like the idea of it. Or they didn't understand what the change would do to them and their identity, which is why one of the things we have to do when we're working with clients is we have to sometimes actually really make sure that, while I'm in there and we're doing this change work, if I find something else that pops up, would you like me to fix it, or do you want me to put it on the shelf and wait till you're out of trance and we can discuss it? And 9.9% of the time, my clients are like, no, if you find some junk, fix it. The 0.01 is the one that we have to be worried about, especially in this day and age. And, they'll be well, no, if we haven't talked about it, I want to make sure that I want it fixed. Okay, got it. Point made when one of our colleagues was working with a gentleman who stuttered. And while they were in there doing change work, he found out why the gentleman stuttered. Easy fix. So he fixed it. 2 days later, the guy comes back to his office livid. I did not tell you to fix my stuttering. I never gave you permission to fix it, blah, blah, blah. And most people would be like, what? Excuse me? Really? And what it was secondary gain. Stuttering was part of his identity. And as soon as he no longer stuttered, he no longer was different than other people. On top of that, he had to explain to people how he all of a sudden magically no longer stuttered, which brought around additional attention that he wasn't looking for. That's secondary gain. Any input, questions on that? I know I threw that one out pretty hard and fast. So come on to trance. Hello. Okay, rolling right along. I like to get through quotes first, then we dive into big stuff. So last one, if you're dealing with corporate clients, or if you're doing a job interview, especially for a larger corporation, this question was brought up and I thought it was really good and obviously worth repeating, is what's the last change that was implemented based on employee feedback, and what impact did it have? What this does is it'll give you an insight into their culture and their management style. I'll repeat it again. What's the last change that they implemented based on employee feedback, and what impact did it have? Now, a couple of the corporate clients that I've worked with, one thing that I recommended, especially to one of my clients, was that they do at least once a month a mastermind webinar, because they had locations in 5 different countries, all trying to do the same thing, and they had to reach a certain goal, and they were having challenges. And asked him if he did mastermind. Well, yeah, we do meetings. So I went, not the same thing. Meetings will have one leader who has here's what we're going to talk about this week, and try to get things figured out. And you're dealing with directors or department heads, and a lot of times they forget to include all departments. Well, we're just talking about production. Yes, but was finance and HR there? Well, why would they need to be there? Because if you suddenly freak out and go, we need 3 more employees. Well, okay, why? But if they're in on the discussion, they understand that all of a sudden we've got a production issue, blah, blah, blah. But the other part that I added to that is a minimum of quarterly, minimum. You need to have at least one bottom rung representative from each department with there. Not the supervisor, not the director, boots on the ground. And the reason being is supervisors may be stuck into a part where, because they're a leader or they're higher up, or because they're dealing with the top brass may hear all of the, yes, everything's good, working fine. They have no idea that the boots on the ground are losing their mind because whoever designed this thing on their CAD program, and it looked really good on paper, has no idea that trying to put the dang thing together, no. And in having boots on the ground in at least one webinar meeting a month, what my clients found out quickly, I got callback from two of the clients, or feedback from them, is when they made sure that the employees understood that we need your input. We need to hear if things aren't working out well. That's why you were picked to be here. What do we need to know? And all of a sudden they were like, oh, really? It's not working? Or he said one meeting was so good that they had all the departments proved why something wouldn't work. The one was like, well, we need this and that, and all of a sudden finance was like, how much is that going to cost? And these are boots on the ground people, not directors. And all of a sudden the directors are going, really? Well, how come I didn't know that? Well, because you're in meetings all day. You're not down here trying to put bolts into holes that don't work to try and get things to line up, and you're not the one that they come to and go, we need more product, but it's not in our budget, and we're trying to explain it to them while we're trying to explain it to you, and you're telling me that, and then we're saying that, HR we're yelling at HR because we need more people to fill in this position, and they're like, we don't have anybody. Here's who we've interviewed, and all right, well, what about this part? Well, we never thought of that. And here the boots on the ground were coming up with such great ideas that he kind of chuckled that the mid-level management got a little nervous. Well, guess what happened when mid-level management got a little nervous? They got a little more interactive with boots on the ground and a little more honest with upper management. And suddenly the machine ran faster. Anybody want to add to that? Yes, go ahead.
When I worked for a leasing company here in Melbourne, they've implemented a new system. However, there was no communication, and if I remember well, the price exploded of the implementation. It didn't work out, and yeah, it no longer exists. It's important.
I may or may not have been let go of the last corporate job that I had because of my lack of fear of approaching upper management with questions that middle management couldn't believe that I was willing to. Oh my God, you can't talk to them like that. Ah! I'm like, what, using English? That's the language they speak. They're not gods. They put on their pants in the morning the same way I do. Facing the same direction, I've noticed even. I was a maintenance guy at a 300-unit apartment complex, and one of the things that I got chewed out for was rainy season had just finished. Now they brought in an expensive crew to climb up on all the apartment buildings and empty all the gutters, even though we'd been asking them to do it since before the rainy season started. Upper management came around, and God bless the manager at the time, but Brown Noser Deluxe, he was so far up them, I was like, do they have four legs? Because that's all I see is four legs at the bottom. And I walked up and I'm like, why are we wasting money on cleaning gutters now. And the manager was like, they were like, what? I said, no, rainy season is over. Those gutters can stay full for another 8 months. Are you guys coming back in 8 months before rainy season starts? Because by then they'll be that full again. What? Yeah, you wasted a lot of money. Well, I said, actually, if you leave the gutters full, the roofs will now clean themselves off easier because it'll go right over the gutters back down to the ground where we can clean it up. Now that you've cleaned out the gutters, all that goes there. Well, what? What? Yeah.
Well, I saw it coming, so I said something and I got shut down, and then I thought there's no point for me to stand up again because they already hate me.
Well,
so I just looked for something else and said bye.
Yep. People ask me why I've been through so many jobs and careers and stuff. I'm on profession 28 right now, and part of it was because of my joy and luck and ability to travel. And I travel somewhere and I needed to feed myself and find a place to sleep, and I'd see help wanted. I'm like, help wanted. Do you know how to do this? Well, it's been a while since I've done this. Could you, like, you don't have to spoon feed me how to do it, but just give me a little refresher. May or may not have,
I'm going to jump in real fast too and just say a big amen. I'm getting PTSD just listening to this because it's so true. Like, they'll say, oh, this big furnace is about to blow up, and when it does, it's going to cost this much to replace it, but if we repair it, it will cost this much. Or oh yeah, the reason we set up this system that's going to be around for 10 years is because the IT people told us the accounting people need it that way. Oh, did you think to ask the accounting people? Because guess what? That's the exact opposite of what I'm thinking. Anyway, so just a couple examples, but like every minute of every day at work, it feels like this. So thank you. Yep. Spot on.
And if you've read the book, is it 48 or 49 Laws of Power? If you're the messenger, you'll get shot.
Well, eventually I got let go for the lamest reason ever, and it's one release meeting that I so wish I would have had the ability to have a camera on the wall to record. Too long of a funky story, but yeah. Some corporates, they are what they are, which is why I'm not a very good employee and need to be self-employed, because sometimes I don't agree with the boss, but I can't fire him, so that's me. Anyhow, on with the next one. Let's go on to the stuff that we posted on Facebook, in case anybody comes in off of there. And starting out with the problem of depends. For those that don't know me or what we're talking about, I'm pretty sure they're like, you're not going to go there, are you? I'm like, yeah. Those of you that know me, potential possibility, but also those that know me know that if you try to get options, especially if you were to ask me, like, what's your favorite blah, blah, blah. My answer, for those that know me very well, is, anybody? It depends. Well, like, yes, it depends on where I am, who I'm with. There are too many variables. You can't, especially you can't ask me an open-ended type generic question like that, because it will always depend. The reason I titled this "The Problem with Depends" is sometimes it's even hard for me to make up my mind, because I'm so good at seeing all of the different angles and views and variations, and teaching 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that may occur. I have trained myself to constantly look for at least 3 answers to every question. And some people are like, that sounds like you have an issue. Yes, you have an inability to make up the mind. But in doing so, the I want to say the enhancer or the performer on that came from a podcast about how they're now finding new ways of helping people through medicine and pharmacy and stuff like that, based on the question or the phrase, "It was in the last place we looked." Now, there are certain situations where that's fine. I mean, if you're looking for your car keys and you find them in the last place you looked, and then you keep looking, we have therapy for that. But when it comes to answers and solutions to a lot of things that are going on, the human tendency is to find an answer as quickly as possible. I got an answer, stick with that, and away we go. And we don't look any further. It was in the last place we looked. We found the answer, that's what we stuck with, we moved on. What I teach my clients and my students now is, yes, you found an answer. What are 2 more answers? And they're like, well, here's why. The first answer may not be the best answer. The second answer may not even be the best answer. In fact, the third answer may not be the best answer. But in going through the exercise and then looking at the 3 answers that you came up with, you may find the 4th answer, which may be the best. Or if you have 3 options, you now have the ability to either go, yes, number 1 was the best, or no, we were close, number 3 is the best, and we can't come up with anything better. Well, what's the best answer? Depends. A, have you found 3 answers? Have you analyzed the difference, where you are, what's the situation, what's going on? Francine added on, so it really opens up choice, as in true choice, correct. And you'd be amazed at the amount of headaches I have magically cured by asking people, what else could it be? You recognize that look on people's faces. They're just walking around. They've got this look of pain on their face, and you're like, "What's wrong?" I got a headache. Oh, you got a headache. And I like to ask them a series of things, and I'm like, okay, first off, is it yours or is it somebody else's? And of course, they give me that look like, did you not hear what I just said? I have a headache. I don't have a spare set of keys. But no, You have a headache. Is it yours or is it somebody else's? Kind of like an energy spider web that you walk through. And now they have to go in and ask their subconscious, is it mine? And ironically, up to about 20% of the time, that's what cures it. Simply by their subconscious going, is this really our headache? Well, guess not. Whew. They're like, well, then whose was it? I was like, why, do you want it back? Well, no. Then just let it, give it back to them. If they figure out you borrowed it for a while, they might want to give it back to you. But if they do come back and go, no, it's mine, then I'll ask them, okay, what else could it be? Give me 3 answers. They're like, what? I'm like, you've already labeled it a headache, and nothing means anything until you give it a label. But what else could it be? Give me 3 answers. Did you get enough sleep last night? Well, no, I didn't sleep very good. Okay, could be fatigue. How much have you drank today or yesterday? Well, not very much. Could be dehydration. What have you eaten in the last 24 hours? Well, I was pretty busy. Yes, what did you eat in the last 24 hours? Well, not much. Could be low blood sugar. Look at those 3 answers now. Notice what happened to your headache, and all of a sudden they're like, it's gone. Well, how does that work? I went, pretty good, apparently, but why don't you analyze those 3 questions and make sure that the check engine light that you labeled as a headache doesn't come back on? A lot of times, pains and discomforts that we feel in our body can simply be a check engine light. But because we're so quick to come up with an answer, because we got to have an answer, what the heck is that? We throw a label at it, and sure enough, we're right all of a sudden. Oh, the check engine light comes on. Oh, I must have a headache. Oh, there it is. I got a headache. Dang it, I got a headache. Instead of lifting the hood to see what's going on. So there's that. Any input, ahas, epiphanies, questions? Yes, Elijah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I heard someone talking about this as well, where there's like the pain, but then there's also the memory of past pain, which makes the pain worse. And then there's like anticipating the pain in the future, which makes it even worse. And so if you can kind of break that loop, get out of that loop, then it's much easier to make those kind of headaches go away. Those because sometimes people just focusing on like, they worry too much about it's not going to go away. Oh my God, is it going to be as bad as last time? What if it's even worse this time? And then they get stuck in this loop, and then it just gets worse and worse, right?
Yeah.
So I really agree with what you're saying about just kind of sending the attention elsewhere and getting stuck into something, and then checking back on it and noticing just, whoa, it went just pretty quickly, actually.
Another one that I've used that works a lot is I call it a ratchet effect. And it's amazing how many people can actually make their headache worse on purpose, by will. Well, what I found out is if you can get them to make it worse by willpower, they can make it better by willpower. But something about our human thought process, we can't make it better until we've proven to ourselves that we can make it worse. And so I will, it works even better if I can touch their arm or have physical contact with them, because it gives them an easier reference. But even if I can't, like in a situation like this, I'll ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 high, where would you rate your headache right now? And even if they say 10, and of course you get a couple of comedians, they're like, oh, it's a 12. I'm like, okay, it's a 12. Can you make it a 13? They're like, what? I'm like, close your eyes, focus on your headache. Can you take it from a 12 to a 13? Sure as heck. You'll see their face, scrunch up a little more. They're like, yep. I'm like, good. Now that you brought it up to a 13, can you drop it down to an 11? Let me know when you get there. And they'll work a little bit, and they're like, oh, okay, I got it to 11. I'm like, okay, now can you bring it back up to a 12? Yep. Usually bringing it back up is about half the time it takes for them to bring it down. But I go, okay, now you're up to a 12. Can you bring it down to a 10? Let me know when you get there. Okay. And we ratchet back and forth until we get to a 0. And I'm like, okay, you brought it up, you had it up to a 2, now bring it down to a 0. Then what I learned from Dr. David Snyder was, why stop there? Okay, now you've got it to a 0, bring it back up to a 1. Now take it to a 1 in the opposite direction of feeling good. Take it to where you've got 1 unit of feel good. They're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I'm like, okay, now take the feel good away, put it back to a 0. Okay, now give yourself 2 units of feel good. They're like, oh, well, what color is that energy? It's whatever color they pick is the perfect color. Now bring it down to 1 unit of pleasure. Now bring it up to 3 units of pleasure. And I'll bring them up to about 4 or 5 where they're feeling ecstatic. And they go, there. Notice how good you feel. Have a fantabulous day. And they went from a level 12 headache to a level 4 pleasure. But they had to prove that they could make it feel worse first. Any questions on that? Ahas, epiphanies? Yes, Fran.
I managed to get mine up. I managed to get it down a couple, but never to 0. But I think it's because it's an actual head injury and there's pain associated with it. I've never managed to get it down to 0, even with pain medication.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Were you trying to do it on your own, or were you doing it with somebody helping you?
I've done it with both, on my own and someone helping me.
Which one was the most effective, out of curiosity?
Me, because it works better if I'm quiet and I'm lying down. Mm-hmm. As soon as I move, it goes back up.
Yeah.
It's also associated with nausea and balance issues, and yeah,
I was just curious because a couple of the people that I've met who, like you, said that they can do it better by themselves. I also found out that they have hypnotist disease, aka smart person syndrome.
Oh, that was before I did the course, so I wasn't a hypnotist at the time.
Oh no, it's not about being a hypnotist. It's about having the curious mind with intellect to where somebody's doing a process, and I'm horrendous at this, where somebody's doing a process on you and your eyes are closed and you're going on, you're like, I wonder if that's working. Well, that's good. I got to remember that one. Yeah, that one's not going to work very good. I'm definitely stealing that one.
I can't remember generally what really happened.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens to me quite a bit. Is that my mind doesn't want to go down, shut down. It wants to hear, listen, record, analyze. And the amount of times that there have been a few times where, David, we're working AV for David for as many years as I did. There were times where I knew that he was going to do his wham bam hypno cookie finish to the day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm taking this as much as I can, and I would go full bore, put the headphones on my head, add a little echo, lay down on the floor under the table, and do my best to blank out. And I would say a handful of times I was able to check out. And I think part of it was because I knew his rhythm. I part of the stuff he says enough times where my brain didn't have to try to document, record, analyze whether it was good or bad. I knew what was coming up, so I could just and enjoy it. But working with newer people, I'm fully admitting I sit there, hypnotist disease, analyzing, wondering, that was good. Oh yeah, I'm good at, yeah. Oh yeah, that definitely won't work. That, all the above. So that's why I asked the question about whether it works better with a person or alone. And one thing that you could do is learn some of these different protocols and practice them on other people. To be able to do it better to yourself. Just like one of the simplest little things to help me with if I have troubles falling asleep at night, is I just start repeating rest, relax, sleep. Rest, relax, sleep. And I'll just say those words over and over. Boop, I'm out. Drives my wife nuts. She's the one that, she runs full throttle all day long. We sit down, relax for supper, watch a little bit of TV or something. Boom, she's out, shark mode, not moving. And in the 10-minute nap that she gets while I'm watching TV alone, apparently, we go to bed, that 10-minute nap, bing, now she's wide awake for an hour. And I do my little thing, and I'm out in 5 minutes. Lenora had her hand up.
Hi guys. Francine, question for you. When you're trying to do it, and I don't know how your approach is, do you try and actually talk to the part or a part and ask it why it doesn't want to let it go?
No, I haven't tried that. I'm doing past therapy with a therapist at the moment, and
nice.
I've improved quite a lot.
Awesome.
As for me asking the part, that's a good one. I think I will try that. Thank you.
And is there times where if it's a pain and I'm like, okay, well, why don't okay, and if it needs to literally shift into a person of sorts that I could dialogue with, it seems to be better, because then I can at least have a conversation. I don't know if other people do this or not. It just seems to be something that is helpful for me.
I found that if I talk to the part, I do talk, and I often ask, if we're thirsty, or if, and it's often because I'm tired. I don't no longer cope being up like most people a specific amount of time. 4 hours is my max. And that's okay. It's getting better. I'm getting better and better all the time. There
was one of these things that it's not too similar. Brent Baum had talked about it, and he had said this one person would not let go of this very small amount of pain because they were keeping it as a form of trust. So it took a while as they were doing color breathing, and they did color breathing, throughout like the next 2 weeks or whatever. And in time, that part had said, okay, I'm ready now to let this pain go. And because it was an anchor of, for example, the things that you were through, that pain might be the pain that you were actually still alive, that you were still here. And it was a safety to let the rest of you know, we're still functioning, we're still here, we're coming through. Possibly. Just putting it out there.
And Elijah, you had your hand up?
Yeah. So long as you're talking to the part, you can maybe negotiate and come up with an agreement. Like, okay, you said I got it down to like a 2, but it never went away fully. What if, because I'm sure the part most likely wants to just make sure, because you said it was based on a real injury, right? So the part probably just wants to make sure that the injury can't repeat itself. So there's a constant reminder. And so perhaps you could negotiate, okay, what if there was no pain? We could bring it down to like a 0.5, or maybe eventually even a 0.1. So it's not pain, but there is like a sensation of sorts that reminds me to be careful. And so I'm vigilant and being careful in my movements and my, things that I'm doing.
Great one.
I don't forget that. Yeah. And at the same time, I don't have to feel pain, right?
Yeah. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Elijah.
Piggybacking off of Elijah's, that was an absolutely awesome point. I know TJ has one where he will even say, you can have it back, but for this time, can we let it go? You can take it back if you want. And that might also be helpful.
Yeah, it's yours. You don't have to get rid of it. But
I don't want it. I don't want it to be mine. I don't actually say my pain. It's the pain because it's a pain.
Yep.
I don't want it.
But like all, especially piggybacking on what Elijah brought up, there also could be a number of lessons that are still buried inside of there, that the subconscious is so afraid that if we get rid of all of this, the lessons will disappear with them. And this will happen again. So at some point, we have to be able to extract the lessons, put them into our lesson box where they're safe, secure, cleaned up, and let your conscious and your subconscious go, okay, we got everything now. We've got all the lessons, but we don't need to hang on to the feces that it was encased in anymore. Does that make sense? So
a lot of sense. Thank you.
And that's why I love this format, because everybody has, little inputs and, 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem. Notice how they all pop up like that. And I like Fran's input, or change the warning sensation from the part. What if instead of a headache, it just gave you a nice little warm glow all over? Same amount of energy. Of course, your husband might be going, "She's been very happy lately."
I have been very happy lately.
Good.
Yes, I have been. I'm coping better with the pain, so this is something more to work on, which is great. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll just tackle one thing at a time, and yeah, we'll just keep on going at it.
Yeah. Cool. Any other input on that? I've got two more that I posted on Facebook, and they'll actually go pretty quick, but I want to make sure I like the way this is going here. So if I have to save the other two for another week, then they'll just have to live in the suspense. No input? Oh, well, I guess we're off and running. Therapy soup. Anybody got any idea what that is? Well, I'm about to tell you. So hang on. Just had a client today reach out on a consultation, and they asked me if I do NLP. And they were adamant about NLP because they just found out about NLP a little while ago, and they're learning from somebody that I've never heard before, and they're not really sure if they're actually learning much. The class is $300 online, and I asked them what they were learning, and I hadn't really heard of much of anything that they were describing. But when she asked me, or said that she had worked with somebody else and asked them if they did NLP, worked with them for 3 months, wasn't getting any change, and then he admitted that he didn't really do NLP. Which is why she was asking me, and I said, well, yes, one of these up here says that I have taken the class, and I don't teach NLP as such, but if you looked at one of those big mechanic toolboxes, I guess you could say I have one of those really big mechanic toolboxes, and in a couple of those drawers is some NLP that I use. But I came up with the phrase, it's kind of like therapy soup. It's in there somewhere. And I can't tell you how to take the NLP and just give you NLP. I mean, it'd be easier if it was like meatball soup. I could just be like, oh, you just want the meatballs. Okay, here you go. No. Elijah, great answer. I'd reply, it depends on how you interpret it. And yeah, and that's the problem with depends. So the other way I wanted to spin this was, that is again the reason why I tell people, study as many different facets as possible. Fill that toolbox with as many different tools as possible, because they're all ingredients that you get to cook with. How many different ways can you make chili? And for those of you that don't know what chili is, just look up Texas chili cook-off recipes. After about recipe number 700, you realize that it's tomato-based soup with your imagination thrown in. Any comments on therapy soup? Yes, no? Bueller. All right. Yes, correct. Elijah commented, a true master is forever a student. Master ye. Yeah, the day that I decide that I know everything, I'm sure that somebody's already digging a hole for me. If I ever tell you I don't need to learn one more thing, I know it all, have me checked, because apparently I've had something happen. I know better. That's why I constantly love to learn stuff. And one of the stories I've told many, many times, if I had the time and it was free and there was a class for underwater basket weaving, I'd take it. And people would be like, you want to make baskets? I'm like, no, I just want the class. I just want to see what it's like, what's in there. Well, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. It could be 10 years later when somebody's trying to build something like a fence, and I could go, well, if you weave it this way, it'll be 10 times stronger, especially if you soak it for a while. They'd be like, took a class in underwater basket weaving about 10 years ago. It was free. I said, wow. Or if I'm working with a client and all of a sudden he's like, and I was underwater and there was stuff all over floating around, I'd be like, well, if you do like underwater basket weaving with those issues, you could make a beautiful barrier to keep the junk out of your life. And Francine put in, I'm taking a Qigong class at the moment, and I get Simon to come with me. You and I can not do all the moves. Yes, but you're there and you're trying, and oh, squirrel! Grabbed it by the tail. And if you're watching one of my recordings for the very first time, you're like, you grab a squirrel by the tail, you'll catch on. I got squirrels through my wife just came back from a week-long conference in Colorado, and she was talking about how different instructors there would contradict each other. You do it this way. You never do it that way. That'd be dumb. You always have to do it this way. And she was like, it drove me nuts. And I said, hun, let me ask you a question. While they were going through and they were teaching you how to do these different things, when one of them told you how to do something, did it work? No, but my pattern went from this, and my pattern was like this, and then he told me the other instructor said I got to do it this way, and my pattern went like this. It was terrible. And I said, yes, you just learned how a pattern that doesn't work for you. And what about the students whose pattern was like this and learned the exact same thing, and their pattern went to this? But now you have verified that what you had been doing before was the best for you. Again, right back to three solutions to every event, situation, or problem. She only had one going into the class. By the end of the week, she had been given 3 more and realized that this one was the best, and knew it was the best because this one was the middle finger, and then this one was, but the combination of them actually enhanced this one because it helped her focus even more on what worked. Let's see, who we got here? Fran, yes, by changing the different pattern, you're expanding your unconscious learning and will now do your original style better. It's an example of super learning. Exactly, yes. And I think I had touched on this in one of our other triple T's, where I have no problem learning the same thing over and over, even sometimes from the same person. How many times have you had somebody explain something to you 7 different times, and on the 7th time, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get it now. Bing, cha-ding, bong, all the stars aligned, and the rooster crowed and all the above, and you're like, ah. Oh. I'm trying to remember which one of the great speakers said that one of the most expensive 3-word phrases is, I know that. As soon as your brain pops that out, you have lost a large chunk of your ability to learn. Elijah added in, I love that feeling when you can't go back to thinking the old way. Yes. But I've been guilty of it too. Somebody started trying to explain or teach something, and my stuck-up conscious mind is like, I knew that. I learned that back in that. Shut up. You're here. Pay attention. Yes, if they say the exact same thing that you already know, all they did was verify that you knew it exactly the way they're teaching. But what if they have just a little different spin on it? And Francine added, when I did Dr. David's first course, I thought, oh my God, I am useless. I was at that course. No, you did great. And then when I did the local course, I thought, oh my God, I am good. Hence, I told you, you were great. Redid David's course, and I'm good at it now. Yes. For you, I remember that one. You showed up and you could barely spell NLP. Right? And you deep dove into a couple of our deepest classes and kept up. So yes, give yourself credit. I've watched enough newbies. Yes, NLP, Elijah. I'm trying to figure out which language that one's spelled in, but yes, close enough. Trying to think. P&L, here we go. Not just kept up, but also did huge therapy on yourself too, Francine, from Fran. Yes, we were there. You did awesome. So, which is another reason why I will invite anybody and go, especially if you can, to the live in-person classes. The energy level, the interaction, getting to do the exercises real time, in person, with the energy attachment is much different than online. If all you can do is online, definitely. But the in person is a whole different ballgame. Fran added in, the practice sessions are a massive therapy session for yourself. Yeah, I know. I was there for ab reaction cleanup. That's a whole different story. And we've gone into the second hour where it becomes open mic. If any of you guys have anything that you would like some questions answered, or if you've got some ahas or epiphanies, something that you would like to share from your part of the world or anything like that, the second half of Triple T, again, I open up the floor and we've gotten some really cool stuff. In fact, I've been meaning to ask our dear Fran, who allowed us to bring in some inputs and ahas last week. How you doing? What'd you get out of that now that you've had 7 days available to deal with or to look at the answers?
Well, my week has been so insanely busy. I haven't really had time to consciously process, but things are still unconsciously processing. So changes are happening, priorities are changing, and it's all heading in the right direction. I just don't fully know what that right direction is yet, but that's okay. It's an interesting journey, and it'll, you've thrown everything in the air and it's sort of falling down and it'll come out in a new pattern. So change can also always be good.
Yes.
It can be interesting and fun.
I had after the meeting, aha, where all of these recordings that you've made, do you have them on a purchasable website where people could go in and either do a membership or a purchase per unit, because they are worth money?
That's so generous of you for saying that, TJ. This is where I was planning originally on heading for. I still need to organize my backing music so that I can have a commercial product. At the moment, I'm not using licensable music. I have investigated the licensing of it, but I'm very particular on what music background sounds I want. And either I got to the point where I thought, well, I can't find what I want out there online. I'm going to have to make it myself. So I'm in that process, and it's okay to have a bit of a break.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, I may lose some of my regulars, but my regulars were falling away anyway. So what the hey? And I want to change direction somewhat. I want to move into vibrational energy and actually teaching that stuff. And I'm excited about that, whether it's with the whole group or just one or two people. I'm happy with that. So I may do a public session with, nice airy-fairy relaxation, and maybe, one of my original type programs develop further once a month, and then do the rest with just a small private group for now. See where it goes. Partly the small private group, I want to be very selective who I invite, because, energy work, it can be used for good or evil. So you've got to pick your superheroes carefully.
Yes. But with your permission, can I challenge you a little bit?
Please, I love a challenge.
This goes to one of Dr. David's very favorite quotes, an imperfect something will always be better than a perfect nothing. So even the product that you've already put out, that I'm hoping dearly you have a full archive of. If you figure out what the cost is, because I used to, run DJ business, and I understand the licensing and using of the music and everything. If you could recover the licensing cost, because I know that you have many different recordings. So how many recordings do you estimate you have?
About 60. Some of them, now looking back on them and re-listening to them, I want to re-record them perhaps. Maybe I'll lose some of the quality of the redoing it. I don't know, but I can test that. Some of the music is not licensable for this purpose. I actually contacted some of the composers, and certainly the one that I like best of all,
of course,
does not have a license that allows his music to be used for this purpose. So I'll find a solution.
Yeah, but one little thing popped up as soon as you said that, there's a couple that you want to record. Here's the original version for $35. Here's the new and improved, enhanced, re-recorded, redigitized, remastered for $50. Own them both for $65. Operators are standing by. Don't delay, do it today.
Well, if I go to that level, then I've got to actually do some serious marketing, and I haven't addressed the serious online marketing yet.
Yeah, but if you have it available, the marketing can drive later on. You already have some marketing people who are just dying to share some product with people who need to hear some product. Like, I've got some clients that could benefit from financially supporting your efforts. And once we get them hooked, kind of like a good drug dealer, then the new enhanced version can be distributed as well. Here, I'll be on the street corner. Psst. Want some audio?
Holly's come up with some amazing ideas too. So thank you, Holly.
Yes.
Music without copyright issues always can get an artist subscription. Comes with a cost, but gets rid of the headache of worrying about music copyrights.
Yes.
So I'm just so particular about the sort of background sound I want. And if it's not right, I would rather not do it.
Ooh, squirrel. I know Lenora's got her hand up before me, but squirrel. Do me a favor. Make the stuff that is supposedly unlicensable, whatever. I wonder what would happen if you send a copy to that artist with an explanation of, I'm new to this and I didn't realize that I had used your track, which is unlicensable. So I wanted you to understand that I haven't made any money from it. but I wanted you to have a copy for free for what it did to the work that I put together. And just send them a thumb drive or whatever, and let them listen to it for free.
It's a wonderful idea, but I've already shot myself in the foot with that one because I've asked him in detail and I've made it clear I understand exactly what he's saying. And he's been very cooperative and nice and just said it's to do with the structure of the license. So, not any unwillingness on his part.
But did you send him a copy of what you did with it?
No, but he said it was inapplicable for backing music. So
that's okay.
I've already admitted guilt if I headed down that route.
Yeah. Let him know that you don't plan on redistributing anymore, but you wanted him to be able to witness what his music is capable of being used for. It may not change his mind at all. And if that happens, nothing's changed. But in listening to your amazing talent with his music as a background, if nothing else, even if it just changes his energy, that might be worth simply sending him a copy of your amazing work. End of rant.
And Lenora's just said, but he may listen and pick it up again in a year. Ta-da. And I mean, that's so true of everything I do. If you speak into a no now, you don't necessarily have that no continuing in a year. So yes, that is worth doing. Thank you, Lenora.
Yeah.
Francine's got points.
I was thinking, what if you make a special one for him? So that he actually changes his mind.
Well, a composer's hypno meditation. Oh, I like that.
Okay. This is why we do open mic session.
Yes, for artists, why not? Artist creativity, musical creativity. Yeah.
There.
Thank you.
Oh, what do we got here? Oh, somebody got inspired. Here you go. I think we call this expansion. Mastermind of the mind of masters. Anybody else anybody else got some input or stuff we can, yeah, go ahead.
Fran, on another note, when you say of the 60, you have 20 that you're like, okay, it's either a yes or no. There's no like kind of, it's either you're in or you're not. So let's go with, okay, you have 20. You can always post it on YouTube for free and then put all your information there and get them to a landing page where they can just download your stuff. It's not hard as much as it is time consuming. So I think Holly has some things up her sleeve to help with manipulation of time, of which I'm trying to find the time to learn that, Holly. So just a thought, and then that way you can still be generating money. Thank you, Holly. Generating money from what you already did, and what you did is already beautiful as it is because you were learning. That was your starting point. That's incredible. And you have actual documentation of your starting point. So many people don't have that. That's great.
It's a bit scary looking back and listening back as well. But yeah, look how far I've come. Thank you.
Yeah. You can even do like a membership where they I think Jason Linett does this where he's like, because you came in at the beginning, you were then involved in my entire vault. So you don't have to have them come back and buy another round. They're already in and you're like, look how much better I've gotten. So there you go. Possible.
You're welcome. And that's one of the payoffs for showing up at stuff like this. So for those of you watching the recording or listening to this like it's a podcast, come join us. Look at what could happen. What else we got other than 40 minutes to go? Feeler? I got a question for you, Fran. Have you future paced this to see what it could possibly become?
I've got so many directions out there. I'm still enjoying the menu at the moment. So there are so many possible futures. I haven't focused down on one particular area yet. I'm just having fun.
What if instead of making it one location point on a map, what if you made it a tour on the map?
Ooh.
Because
interesting.
Future pacing doesn't have to be one address. And that's where what the last one that I didn't get to yet was called Hope in Your GPS. And one of my clients that I worked with last week, we had discussed the concept of future pacing, which I had tried with them a couple of times, and they were like, I just don't like this. And I'm like, why? Well, what if it doesn't turn out? I'm like, all right, that's a pessimistic way of looking at it. If we're on a scale of 1 to 10 and your life is currently at a 5 and we future pace and you find yourself at an 8 and it doesn't work out because you got to a 7, that would be terrible because you've only made it to a 7 and not an 8. But what if you made it to a 9? Well, that'd be terrible because that's not where you were planning on landing either. But you're at a 9. Well, and I asked, how do you normally get there? Well, I hope to make it. I said, well, hope is not a location in a GPS unless it's the actual name of a town.
TJ, you've just given me my next hypno meditation about all these new future possibilities. Thank you.
That's why
I might listen to it to myself as well.
So make sure when you're there's nothing wrong with the future pacing. Future pacing, like I explained to my client, is in everything. You future pace absolutely everything. You may not know exactly how it's going to work out, but even cooking has an amount of future pacing in it. I've got all these ingredients. Oh, yeah? What'd you future pace it to be? Well, it's going to be beef stroganoff. Well, that's a good future pace. We know where we're heading. Timeline's pretty short, probably about an hour and a half, depending on how you're doing it. Or a college degree. You future paced 4 years of your life ahead to being a piece of paper that you get to hang on the wall. But what have you future paced beyond that? Why are you doing this? Because without it, my life will be here. But if I do the degree, I future pace my life to be here in 4 years because I'll have put in the work, I'll have gotten the degree, and I'll be here. So there's a certain opening allowing yourself to throw out into the universe a distinct GPS locale for you to be headed towards, especially when you've done a lot of cleanup work on the backside. I had all of these anchors and all this trash and all this luggage that was slowing me down, weighing me down, all the above, and I got rid of it. Well, now that you've got rid of it, where is that going to allow you to go in 5 years? That's future pacing. So there's hope in your GPS. Any input, ahas, epiphanies? Yes, may have been a few puns in there as well. Yes, Francine.
Well, I was thinking that I'd like to do some to learn some parts therapy. So I've had a bit of a look at IFS, which is internal family systems, which actually looks at all the different sub things inside of you. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to study it, and it might not be this year, but yeah, I think I've added this now to the whole mix that I want to do. Good
answer.
Yes, I think this is great. Thank you. So it's not just one thing. It's let's embrace it all.
Yes. Yep. And
feels right. You know, we have 24 hours in the day. You know.
What was that, Fran?
You need more. There's too much to do. And you somehow, in all this, I've got this weird download. Wouldn't it be fun to do a sort of genealogy hypnomeditation, an exploration into what life was like for your ancestors, to actually do that and really feel it, to know where you've come from, that you're the end product of all that behind you, and to really appreciate how amazing some of your ancestors were, even maybe those that you didn't like, and how they got to that point. It could be a kind of fun exploration. So
yes,
not just going forward.
I do a lot of regression in my work with my clients. And one of the coolest things that comes out of it is when they realize that the energy that was at the core of what they're dealing with goes back 4 or 5 generations. Like, yeah, this wasn't yours. It was given to you. And it can stop with you. You can break the chain. You can be the person in your family that goes, yeah, we don't need this curse on our family anymore. Even if it still travels through the other parts of the family, it won't travel through me anymore. I will no longer be a carrier of this energy that's been in the family for years and generations and all the above. Yes, Fran.
And absolutely, TJ, the power of being able to go back in time and heal a family trauma, or the origins of something that's been passed through to you that you are not consciously aware of, that's your fault. To be able to go back in time and actually fix that is enormously powerful, energetically, and for the person in the here and now. Fantastic work.
Well, why do we cut the ends off the ham? You know that story, right? The Christmas time, very young girl is watching mom slice the ends off the ham. She goes, Mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham? Well, because my mom always did it. Well, grandma happens to be there, and she goes up to grandma and goes, Grandma, how come you always cut the ends off the ham? Well, because my mom always did it. Well, family was young enough. Great grandma was on her way there. So when great grandma shows up, the little girl walks up and says, Great grandma, how come you always cut the ends off the ham? Great grandma goes, Well, that was because that was the only way I could get it to fit into the only pan I had. Nobody questioned why. But it had been handed down from generation to generation to generation. And they finally broke the curse.
Handed down.
Yeah, right? It had been handed down. And, you know, that, and a lot of times people put up with stuff because of the painful nail. I'm down. You're awesome. The painful nail is guy goes to see grandpa out in the country, and they're sitting on the front porch having a little bit of a little tea and chit chatting, and all of a sudden the old hound dog is sitting there and he's moaning. And finally the kid goes, Grandpa, what's wrong with the dog? He goes, Oh, I reckon he's sitting on that nail again. The kid goes, sitting on a nail? Well, why doesn't he move? Well, I reckon it doesn't hurt enough yet. And how many people do we know that won't do something because the nail doesn't hurt quite enough yet? They'll complain about it. I hate my job. This job. Well, when are you going to get another one? Well, why would I leave this job? Apparently the nail doesn't hurt enough yet. Anybody know anybody like that?
And,
oh yeah, small stone in a shoe is compared to a sharp rock. Yeah.
Can I add? There's nothing wrong with then learning to love the job you have, right? So, like, say for example, I hate my job, I don't like it, blah blah blah. Okay, so why don't you leave it? Oh, but I can't leave this job. Oh, why can't you leave it? What's good about it? And then you kind of get them into this gratitude mode. Oh, I love it because I get paid more than average. I get more holidays than normal. I get medical insurance. I get a parking space of my own. And then they can start making this list. And it's possible to start to learn to love something that you thought you didn't like and appreciate it. You know, it doesn't have to be a nail that needs to hurt more. It can also be something else that you didn't quite see it that way before, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like my favorite analogy about the pessimist going into the world's most beautiful arboretum. Beautiful flowers everywhere from every part of the world. And that person will walk in and see the one damn weed in the entire building and fixate right on that and go right up to it and start screaming about the weed. You got to smack them on the forehead, make them stand up, and all of a sudden they look around. They're like, where'd all these flowers come from? They've been here the whole time. But what about the weed? It's your weed. You can do whatever you want with it. You can pull it out, but then it'll die. Yeah. Well, what then? Well, it's your weed. You can feed it. You can keep it. You can. But look at the thorns when I hang on to it. Look at the blood it makes. Oh my God. Here's an idea. What if you let go? What if you go and tend to the flowers instead? I guarantee you, my flower garden has weeds. Every now and then I find myself fixated on one or two weeds and I'm bitching about them, and all of a sudden I have to smack myself on the forehead and look around and go, well, look at all these flowers. what if I just added extra fertilizer for the flowers, do a little weed and feed, and take care of the flowers instead? Just saying. So, 7:34. What else we got? Has this been a crazy energy week for you guys? Because, boy, I tell you, it has for me. This week I have found myself wanting a nap more than since I was a little kid. So, help me out, kids. What else we got? Anybody got anything they would like some help with, or see what else I can find on my...
Some time expansion, please, TJ. I haven't got enough hours in the day to get everything done.
The amount of money I could make the day that I simply get that figured out, I think we should all work together about that. I've got lots of stuff here.
You know what? That's a brilliant idea for a class. I'm so going to steal that.
There you go.
Listen, spoil. Here's a exclusive. Okay, I've just decided right now that I'm going to make a class on time distortion. I think that's what the next one's going to be.
All right.
I love time distortion. I play with it.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I think we'll have good fun with that.
Anything else we can share here? Oh, here's one I don't remember us talking about. Back to Jordan Peterson. Yes, I know. I do watch other stuff than him, but he comes up with some of these quotes that, and this one was, quote, "I don't know how to improve my life." Really? Well, then you're not aiming low enough. There's always something small enough to start on. You don't start lifting weights by putting 400 pounds on the bar and dropping it on your head. So sometimes if you're looking for ways to improve yourself, again, just like you said there, aim lower. Start with anything. It's always good to have a learning opportunity, a challenge, or something. One of my friends wanted to lose some weight, and so I was talking with them about, number one, get rid of your scale and focus on your body, about what do you want to make for a change there, and then learn how to take care of that. You want a flatter stomach? Well, that starts in the kitchen. Start learning how to pick better foods and prepare it in ways that will help your stomach. And then, well, I sit down all day. One of my good friends, older lady, she's had both knees replaced. One 3 times already, because the first 2 didn't work out very well. Part of it is because she doesn't like doing the therapy. It hurts. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's going to hurt if you do nothing or if you do therapy, but I can tell you which one is going to make it feel better in a couple of months. That's why they have the therapy. But I pointed out to her, she's like, well, I'm just getting too big now. I can't, it hurts when I walk. I said, well, what do you do when you're sitting? What? I said, you do realize there are exercises specifically designed for people who have to sit all the day. I said, look up office chair exercises. Yep, took that excuse from her. I was like, there was a whole setup of, doing knee raises and leg extensions while you're sitting in your chair and all the above. I said, there's, again, 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem. Francine, you had your hand raised?
Yes, you were speaking about getting rid of the weighing thing, where you weigh yourself. I can't remember the name of the.
Oh, the scale?
I got rid of the weight machine, whatever
Yeah.
it's called. And because for decades, I tried to put on weight. Not much, just a little bit. I'm slightly underweight. And just actually chucking it out and not worrying about my weight, but more trying and eat more instead of focusing, oh, I need to put on weight.
Yep.
I moved on the size and I'm happy now.
Perfect. Yes, that's why I tell, and I know I've talked about this before, but I've had a couple of them where, they got into a workout regimen and they're tracking everything and they're working their butt off and they've changed their diet and they're like, I've only lost 2 pounds. I'm like, yeah, but how do your pants fit? You look great. Well, I had to buy new pants. The other ones were falling off of me. I'm like, yeah, you lost 2 pounds, but your pants were falling off because this is 5 pounds of fat and this is 5 pounds of muscle. And you're burning up all the fat and replacing it with muscle. So the weight doesn't change, but your body shape is changing.
And moving from the physical, can I ask you to talk about vibrational stuff your way, and including vibrational energy and weight loss?
Well, and I was going to ask you, could you specify or clarify a little bit on what vibrational stuff you would like me to talk about? Because vibrational stuff, unfortunately, got dropped into therapy soup. So I have to remember which ingredient I got to pull out.
Well, where you use expanded awarenesses, where you use expanded mental, emotional, energy field awarenesses, holographic energy, how changing thought processes and awarenesses, expanded awarenesses, might affect things like weight.
Okay, now we go. Now I know which ingredients we're talking about. Expanded awareness for me, and especially when I relate it to energies and going on with Brent Baum's HMR and crossed over with Dr. David's color games and things of that nature. I had to actually use it with a client last week who was offended by the fact that people don't say excuse me much anymore, especially in a grocery store. She's like, well, I say it all the time, but people cut right in front of me and they don't say nothing. And what I did was I had her close her eyes, rewind the tape, and identify the color of the energy around the people that didn't say, excuse me, versus the color of energy that she goes in with. And she found that as she was watching this as a video replay, there were certain energies inside of there. And then when I did I had her pull out an older tape out of the archives from before the scamdemic. And she noticed a whole different set of energies, especially in the public arena, grocery stores and stuff like that. And she realized that what was going on had changed energies. And like so many of us, we were still expecting the personalities and energies from before the world changed, because some of us held on to it. And so I taught her the idea of an energy bomb. I said, what color or colors of energy could you coat the people inside with? And what additional energy could you put around yourself that would interact with their energy, if nothing else, to help take the edge off? Well, she went shopping yesterday, no, 2 days ago, Sunday, and sent me a text that about 4 times as many people would get out of her way or say, excuse me. Which she was like, this stuff works, what the what? I'm like, just saying. Fran, you hand up?
You just reminded me something. I may have said it before, and I apologize if I've repeated
Don't
myself.
apologize. This is a new recording.
I had a friend who was a Reiki master. So this is moving into the sort of Reiki vibrational energy, who was also a nurse at a hospital. And every day when he was going on shift, he'd send energy out 15 minutes before he arrived on the ward so that everything was peaceful, to the point where people he worked with who didn't really know what he did noticed enough to think, everything's gone peaceful. Larry must be coming on shift. So it's something that you can send out before you, whether it's shopping or whatever, you can send it out before you, or just have a bubble around you so that everybody in your sphere is the sort of person you want to mix with. And it does make a big difference. I'd forgotten. I'm so glad you reminded me.
Yeah, and the funny part is you don't have to believe it works, just do it. In fact, I have more fun with people that don't believe it and do it, because they're the ones that text me on Sunday night going, oh my God, this shit works, I went to bed. Lenora, input?
Getting there. I got to press like 45 buttons over here. Very specifically, Fran, you had asked about weight, and I know a fair amount of information when it comes to weight loss and different thought processes and stuff. One thing that you can do, just like you're doing with sending out energy, you can do the same thing in the morning and just breathe color and ask your body, what color do I need right now? And you can do that even before you eat. You can change the energy of the food before you eat, change the energy of the water before you drink, and put forth, calling it like a pause. So put forth the intention of what you want it to do for your body. And that way you're just coming into that moment of alignment. And the caveat being is that you got to remember to do it. So until it becomes autopilot, that's the only thing. But you can literally, when you're carrying around stress, or when you're carrying around other stuff, you're literally heavier. And after you do, I don't know if you've worked with TJ or if you've done anything with color breathing, or the response is, I feel lighter. And especially when it's bigger things that seem to kind of swirl around our energy field a bit more. One story is like the person suddenly became the matriarch of the family, and she felt all this pressure, and they went through and did some color breathing and a variety of techniques like soup therapy. That is good, by the way. That is an excellent term, soup therapy. Fantastic. But doing that, you reframe everything and you literally feel lighter. You digest differently. You will then have that continuing ongoing ripple effect of a change in the number. I don't know if scale's a thing, scale's not a thing in for me anymore. So to whatever you want it to be, but I also really like, to you, Miss Fran, the goddess meditations and checking in and changing that first thing or tuning in, noticing it. I used to have like a Post-it wall and I took it down and now I have like a Post-it board here. I got to keep filing them through, but I had that for a while because I found that really powerful of a reminder. What is the intention I'm setting forth?
I mean, you can take this a whole line further with the future pacing as well and throw that energy into the future pacing. Yes.
And I was just going to ask you, who are you doing this for? Remember when we talked about doing favors for your future self? Even if it's such a small thing as setting up coffee the night before. Well, if you're leaving little reminders for your future self of, remember to change the energy and da-da-da. Remember to do this little workout. Remember to research different little workouts for my stomach. Da-da-da. Make it prominent that you're doing this intentionally for your future self. And when it shows up, remember to thank your prior self for taking care of you back then.
And you can actually link and embed and anchor this to basic things you do every day. Like if you're doing exercises, to actually anchor all these wonderful feelings to doing the exercise, or even cleaning your teeth to remind yourself to set up for the next day. Yeah. Oh, so powerful.
Yeah. When I first heard that concept of what are you doing for your future self, talk about a download where I'm just like, he goes, even setting out your clothes the night before. But that's half of it. The other half is when you wake up in the morning and you see your clothes set out. Thank your past self for taking the time to think about you. That's reverse gratitude. Here's to my future self. I care about you and I love you. I'm going to set your clothes out for you. You wake up in the morning, oh, look at my clothes are all set out. Thank you for taking the time to think about me today. Reverse gratitude. Yes, it is important because a lot of times the last person we think about thanking is ourselves. And ironically, we're stuck with ourselves for our entire life. Friends may come and go, but we're stuck with each other, with ourselves forever. Forever. In good times and bad. In fact, a lot of times during the bad times, we're the only ones with us. Sadly.
And that's often the best company.
I like hanging out with myself. I'm pretty groovy. Yeah. Some millennial just went, how old are you, dude? Groovy? Really? Groovy. I'm happening. And those of you that know me really well, especially my wife is finding out, I will crack myself up out of the blue. Literally, I will have a squirrel run across and I will have a thought And I just start cracking up. And my wife, now she's been around me long enough. She's like, okay, I'll play. What was that? And I'll explain it to her. She's like, where do you come up with this? What? I'm like, there you go, babe. My brain never shuts off. I am in a room with 74 large screen TVs. They're all on a different channel and they're all turned up. And sometimes I'll turn over and I'll see that comedy show and I'll be like, where'd that come from? I need therapy, apparently. That way I can add 5 more screens. Well, we're down to 6 mini. Anybody want to share anything or enhance or anything or silence?
I will throw that out there. If anybody would like to get to a live class and they can't get to a live class, I've never actually been to a live class ever. So all I've learned has been through Zoom and YouTube and hanging out with you guys. So it's possible.
Oh.
Possible.
And hasn't Zoom expanded our worlds that we can meet from all over the globe? I mean, the energy is different online, but we still can connect the energy, which is so cool and such a privilege. And you can be so selective with your friends too.
When I finally got the courage to go to a class, it was 2020. So I go to a class. Worked out.
I did Dr. David's the same class we did in Sydney via Zoom, and I was kind of nervous and I didn't think it would be as good, but it was really good. I don't think it would be as good for the first time. However, I felt it was really great, and I would do Zoom classes now too. I would never have before, but now I would.
And Holly was so integral in making it a fantastic experience. So thank you so much, Holly.
Yeah, Holly.
Your skills
so great
and your
seriously, that was such a good group, and it was Fran Francine, like seriously a huge part of that.
I had Holly too. She was incredible. And
when you were on
moons ago. But yes, thanks to Zoom, then we can go to classes in Texas.
Yes.
Texas is big, y'all. We got room.
Yeah, and from Melbourne, Australia, and from Perth, Well, I'm in Melbourne, but yeah.
I'm in country Western Australia, where there aren't, well, we've got some people, but not as many of you guys.
Yeah. Thank God we got this right here, and I got 3 minutes left to tell you all how much I adore you, which is about 3 hours too short. So I'm just going to keep it, very quaint and small. And y'all make me just happy to be alive. And I also appreciate the input, the community, the help back and forth, the questions, and I tell you what, I've said this, every triple T, I didn't do this for 2-3 years because I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough to talk about.
Yeah, you just got to jump in and do it, even if you're not ready. That's what you told me too. And jumping in first off and actually doing it is so scary. I don't know about you, but my voice was wobbling a bit.
I think mine was more just like, the pressure of, I have no problem getting up in front of crowds, as you may have noticed. So I wasn't that wasn't the problem. I was more concerned about being able to deliver enough information and product to keep it interesting for you guys. I wanted to make sure that it was worth your time. And now, all week long, when I'm not doing this, the amount of squirrels that run across with a banner going, this could be Triple T, this could be Triple T, they might like this one. And I'm like, hey, get back here. Let me write that down. And some of them get away because I don't, I'm like, oh, that would have been, what was it? What was that? I didn't. Fran?
This is a big subject in 1 minute. How can you enhance community ownership of what I'm sending out there? I want people to feel like they are owning it, they are directing it, they are making a difference to the end product, so that they feel the ownership of what I'm doing.
I think, go ahead, Lenore. I saw you stepping up to the mic. I think part of it is doing what you just did. You said that so much from the heart. That wasn't just wordplay. You said that right here. And if you, A, set that intention, but B, make that part of your public announcement, your beginning announcement of going, I'm going in a new direction, but I need your guys' help. I want this to be, and put that out there exactly like that. And with what I felt while you were saying that, your tribe will come out of the weeds. But I also am going to tell you this much. It is worth it. Record it, package it, and just like I was taught at a couple of the business building practices, start with the first brick of the building with the full intention of selling the business. Don't start it off as a charity. Don't start it off as something that you're going to build legacy. Start it off as something that you're going to build for sale. You will build it entirely differently. Typically, you will build it much faster and much more stable, and you will take the time to think it through with a different process. And I'm just as guilty. I love helping people, and I just thoughts come to my head at the speed of squirrels dropping out of trees, and I love to just throw that stuff out there. But I've watched people, especially I know of 4 people who were in that class with me who have already built 2 businesses and sold them, because they did it with an entirely different mindset. When they chose the name of the business was designed specifically for sale. The structure of the business was designed on a for sale platform. And I know that we're doing a spin-off here on what you asked, but if you are bringing this out into a community request, you are creating a product that is so powerful and unique that, looking at how, just like with your music licensing, you now know that to do this with a sale process, you're going to make sure that the music can be used and sold and resold and resold and resold. And then you can take your stuff and do the new and improved. And that's also where, like, for what we do with the trainings and stuff, where I know we're going over time and you're worth it. I always told people proper video, but proper audio is more important than proper video. Because when you have good audio, you now have 3 to 4 sellable product from one interaction. You have the video download. You have the audio download as a podcast, possibly, or just a straight audio. They also have transcription capability now. And a lot of people like to have the transcription so that they can go through, highlight, enhance, all the above, the people that are the book nerds. So when you're thinking about these things now, think beyond the microvision of putting the product together. Make it a community, make it saleable, because Fran deserves a new set of shoes or a new set of whatever the hell she wants because she's worth it. You've put in the time. You've gained the skills. My God, you've gained the skills. The stuff that you are putting together, your ability, your knowledge, the world needs it in a huge way. And ironically, people will get more out of it if they pay for it than if you give it to them for free. It's been proven too many times. Kind of like the person that stood on the corner with a solid bar of silver and cold Hershey's bars. He had a solid bar of silver, verified, and a cooler full of Hershey's bars, and asked people, would you like a free bar of silver or a free Hershey bar, a bar of chocolate? He emptied the entire cooler of chocolate. Nobody took the silver. I, on the other hand, he'd have been out of silver. Just like that. Because even if it was aluminum, it looked cool. And I can buy a Hershey bar at all these stores, but I haven't seen a silver bar like that.
Totally off track, but this was a while ago. I used to live in Kalgoorlie, the gold mining town, and I was married to a prospector back then. And at that time, people were melting their own gold bars. And on a Friday night, you'd take your gold bar from your paw down the pub, pass this gold bar round the pub, and it would come back to you. Go figure. Doesn't happen now.
Right?
Wouldn't come back.
And the funny part was he was standing in front of a jewelry store going, you can take it right in there and verify its authenticity. No, because it was free. So, yes, start charging for your stuff. You're worth it.
And your stuff is amazing.
And for those of you that don't understand what Fran's stuff is, you should reach out to her. Or Fran, how can they get a hold of you? Because you brought it up to have this part of a community situation. How would they be able to get a hold of you so that they could, A, purchase your amazing recordings, and B, be part of helping you create more new amazing product?
I haven't got that structure in place, TJ. I will have to.
Well, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna timeline this thing.
To be continued.
Yes. Now that I've got everybody's interest up, make sure that you keep tuning into Triple T so that you can find out when Fran Hyperspeed gets her amazing structure put together so that she can start putting out this amazing product, a lot of which she has already created, which may not be perfect, but an imperfect something is always better than a perfect nothing. Fran's going to have to take the recording and rewatch this just to go over all of the stuff that we've thrown at you. Which brings us to past 8, which means it's time for me to close this down and say thank you for tuning in and listening in. And if you're on my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when we've got new stuff being added. And share this with your friends and leave comments down below. I've noticed that there's not a whole lot of comments. I'm feeling a little, I'm not sure what I'm feeling. I'm not going to put a label on it because then it would mean something. But as always, I adore every single one of you and hope to see you again in 7. Blessings upon you all. Now go out in the world and be nice to people. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, TJ.
Welcome.